North Carolina's defense has been a season-long struggle, but hold the phone. Is the tide turning?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. It's the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listen or watch. And I want to give a special shout out to the everydayers, the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family, and of course, our Locked On Tar Heels insiders who go next level with our show and are our biggest supporters. Coming up on the show today, we're going to get into the Cal preview. We'll have our Four Corners preview. I'll get you to know the fighting Jason kids, all that, my game score prediction. But I apologize first. Yesterday, Trivia Tuesday, I posed a trivia question and I did not give you an answer. It was at some point on Tuesday afternoon. Davis Wallace, who's a faithful listener to the show, texted me and he was like, Isaac, you didn't give the Tuesday trivia answer. Y'all, my bad. Here it is. Let me remind you of the question. Stanford and Cal are coming to the Dean Dome for the first time as part of the ACC. Cal tonight, Stanford on Saturday. My question, what is Carolina's combined all-time record against these two schools? Anybody know? Let me give it to you. Against Stanford, who Carolina plays on Saturday. How about this? Tar Heels have never lost to Stanford, 13-0 all-time, and against Cal, 4-1. So combined, Carolina is 17-1 against these brand new California ACC schools. Let's go ahead and make that 18-1 tonight. How are we going to do that? Well, it's the first conversation of the day. As you are well aware, because you're listening to or watching this show, you're a big Carolina fan. That means you know that North Carolina has struggled defensively this year. Like, it has been a thing. Part of it is the lack of rim protection that Carolina has had for a lot of the year. Part of it is Carolina's size or lack thereof in the backcourt. Part of it is just not being connected defensively. There's all this stuff that goes into it. And part of it is just bringing a whole bunch of new people together. That's the transfer portal era. And remember last year, Carolina, about 10 games into the season, it was around that Oklahoma game where the Tar Heels really started going. And then the defense was their identity season long. Well, Carolina this season has played 17 games. Let me discuss with you the first 14 games. So that's the beginning of the season up through Louisville on New Year's Day. So basically calendar year 24 plus the New Year's Day game against Louisville. In those 14 games, Carolina allowed 79.6 a game to their opponents. If we want to, though, just look at only the high major opponents and Dayton, let's strip out the 5 mid-majors, strip out the 5 bye games. So that would be Elon, American, Hawaii, LaSalle, and Campbell. If you take those 5 teams out, in the remaining 9 games, Carolina allowed 85.2 points a game. That is what? That is a crazy number. The shooting percentages in those games, Carolina in the first 14, the Tar Heels allowed 43% from the field, 34.7% from 3. It goes up a little bit against the 9 high major games in Dayton. Field goal percentage goes up to 45.5%, and the 3-point field goal percentage is essentially the same, 34.5. I give you all that context, all these crazy amount of points and high-level shooting that Carolina is surrendering. And I know it's a small sample size, but have you, friends, caught what the Tar Heels have done in the last 3 games? You might have, you might have not, but let me splice that all together for you. In the last 3 games, that would be Notre Dame, at home against SMU. That was Seth Trimble's return. And then on Saturday at NC State. In those 3 games, 73 points allowed to Notre Dame, 67 points allowed to SMU, and 61 points allowed to NC State. So there's that. Why do I bring that up? Well, prior to these 3 games, when Carolina has allowed, what did I say, 73, 67, and 61 points, in the 14 games prior, or excuse me, I should say just in the games against the high major opponents and Dayton prior to that, Carolina had held just one opponent, one of those high major opponents, under 74 points, and that was the Georgia Tech game. Literally every other of those 9 games that we just talked about against high major opponents in Dayton, the Tar Heels allowed 74 or more points. In each of the last 3, it has been under that number, 73, 67, and 61. Carolina maybe turning a corner defensively. Now, that's just points per game, right? Like, that's a big metric, but what else has been going on? Well, let's look at the points per game in these last 3. That 3 combined, that is an average of 67 points a game. That's a lot lower. We'll compare it in just a second. The shooting, field goal percentage is down. Carolina in the last 3 games has held their opponents to 37.7% from the field. 3-point percentage in the last 3 is down to 23.3%. So that means points per game, first 14 games of the season, 79.6%. First 9 games against high majors in Dayton, 85.2 points per game. 85 points a game, you guys. In the last 3, that number has dropped by almost 18, essentially, from 85 points a game to 67 points a game. What about shooting? Carolina in the first 14 games allowed 43% from the field. Against just those first 9 high major opponents, up to 45.5% from the field. The last 3 games, that's dropped almost 10 percentage points down to 37.7%. 3-point shooting, 34%, 34.5% essentially against the first 14 games and against the first 9 high majors. In the last 3 games, that number has dropped again from 34.5 down to 23.3. That's over 12 percentage points. What? This team that seemed literally incapable of stopping anyone is now doing this. And oh, by the way, remember, in each of the last 2 games, so that would be SMU and NC State, Carolina has held both of those teams to their lowest scoring half of the entire season, first or second half of every other game they've played. What the Tar Heels did to those teams, it happened to be the first half of both of those games, was the lowest they've scored in a half in any game this season. And let's talk about defensive efficiency too, because it can't just be the shooting. It can't just be the points per game. When you look at KenPom, or if you look at BartTorvik.com, you can see offensive and defensive efficiency numbers. Carolina's season long at KenPom is 41st in defensive efficiency. At Torvik, it's quite a bit lower, 60th in defensive efficiency. But if we filter it to just these 3 games, which you can do at Torvik, you can't do that at KenPom. But at Torvik, I set it for January 2nd, because that was the day after that Louisville game, so that it took everyone in the nation's games since January 2nd and on. And in that time frame, hear this: Carolina 60th season long at Torvik is 15th in defensive efficiency. So not only do our eyeballs say that the points per game is down, the shooting is down, but the computer metrics show this too. 15th in defensive efficiency in the last 3 games. Can they keep that up? That is the big question. And you can't just say, some snotty non-Tar Heel fan can't just be like, oh, well, you're doing it against bad offensive teams. SMU is the top 20 scoring team in the nation. I think they're like 18th in points per game. So I don't want to hear that. Carolina's done this against good offensive teams. So let's do that again tonight against Callan. That the magic number we're looking for, as we kind of talked about today here, is 74. Carolina, again, 8 of their first 9 high major opponents scored 74 or more points. Carolina's last 3 high major opponents, again, Notre Dame, SMU, and NC State, have all been under 74. So that is going to be the demarcation line that we're looking for tonight. Can the Tar Heels continue this trend and keep, I almost said SMU, and keep Cal under 74? Magic number. So what does it take to do that? Let me just give you a couple things to watch for that Carolina could be doing. Number 1, flying around. That's the strength of this team. The athleticism, the havoc that they can cause, getting steals, getting in passing lanes, doing all of that kind of stuff. That's it. Got to use that athleticism. Number 2, communication. Coach Davis has talked about so much about how this team is like the quietest team he's ever had, but that they've been talking more lately. So we're going to be watching for that communication. Can they keep that up? Another thing to watch for, what does it take to hold Cal under 74, is quite frankly and quite easily the J-Wash block party. That matters. There has been part of those first 14 games versus the last 3, a clear demarcation line is J-Wash blocking shots. In the first 14 games, he had a total of 9 blocks. That's 0.64 blocks a game. In the last 3, when Carolina has held their opponents under 74 points, he's had 12 blocks, averaging 4. So he's up, nearly 3.5 blocks a game just in these last 3. And to be fair, it's not even that he has to continue blocking that many shots per game. It's just that he has to be a presence in the lane at that same level. He has to make people think about him and regard him and say, oh, I should alter this shot a little bit because Jalen Washington, who's blocking a lot of shots right now, is in my way. Like, get in their heads. That's critical. If he blocks it, great. But if just his presence alters what they're doing, even better. Next thing to make this happen defensively, continue it going, is a rebound. We've talked about this a lot. We're actually about to talk about it more. So I'll just say rebound and move on for now. And then the last thing, Coach Rob said this earlier this season in one of our shows together, but he said, I want guys who hate getting beat off the dribble. I want defenders who are like, I will not let a ball handler buy me. That's what the defense needs to be for Carolina, man. Communicating, flying around, switching, talking about it, J-Wash block party, rebound, and hate getting beat. You bring all that together, and this defense truly might be finding something out. But that's what we're going to start learning. Is the defense truly getting better, or is it just a small sample size for the last 3 games? We're going to find out more about that tonight against Cal. Now, part of that defense is that Carolina is going to have to do better defending without fouling, especially against Cal. I'll tell you why. That and more coming up in our Four Corners preview. Right after I tell you about Wayfair, after the holiday hustle, man, there is nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine in January. And man, do I need that. I love the holiday season, but man, everything's out of whack. So whether you're tidying up or clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start 2025, Wayfair, they've got everything you need, all within your budget. That's great news. One of the things for me is I hate the end of Christmas because as we bring down all our decorations, the house just feels empty and I want to add stuff. So thankfully, Wayfair, what I love about them is they help tackle those New Year's home goals with endless inspiration for every space. My favorite part, the fast and free, hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items, man. Again, it's free. It's great. Wayfair's site, man, it's so easy to navigate and you can find everything you need in a flash. It'll be great. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We've been talking defense today, and that theme is going to carry on as we now get into our Four Corners preview for Carolina hosting Cal tonight. Number 1, defend without fouling. We talked about this recently, but it's going to continue to be a storyline. Much better against NC State on Saturday. Although, to be fair, there weren't many fouls called on either side in that game. That was kind of a crazy refereed game. But when you look at Cal and what it is they do well, the single best thing to me statistically that they do is free throw line things, things related to the free throw line. It's getting there and making them. Cal attacks the rim. They want to get there and force you to either defend, give up layup, foul, whatever it is. They're going to make the ref make a call. 23.5% of their points come from the free throw line. And you might wonder, like, is that good? Is that bad? Isaac, I need context. Well, that is 24th in the nation in terms of what percentage of a team's points come at the free throw line. Cal is 24th. They're 21st nationally in free throws made a game, and they're 31st nationally in free throws attempted a game. So they're getting there. They're doing it consistently, and for the most part, knocking them down when they are there. And as you well know, because we've been talking about it, this has been an issue for Carolina lately, keeping teams off the free throw line. Although, to be fair, let me say, Louisville, against whom Carolina gave up a season-high 39 free throw attempts, 20 of which were Chucky Hepburn by himself, that came with Seth Trimble sitting on the bench in street clothes. And then Marcus Burton's kind of breakout as he got back into play for Notre Dame, also without Seth Trimble. So while Carolina has been struggling with this. I do think Seth Trimble is a key and critical factor in the Tar Heels doing better about defending without fouling, not only because he's good at it, but I think everyone else realizes they need to raise their level as well. Now, again, as I said, much better Saturday at NC State. Wolfpack just had 12 free throw attempts, which is the second lowest total of the season that Carolina has allowed. Although, again, there were just 20 combined free throws attempted in that game. Carolina only shot 8. So I think that game's kind of an outlier that we don't learn a ton from. We're going to learn a lot tonight about how Carolina is able to defend without fouling. Number 2 in our Four Corners preview. I feel like this is a bit of a broken record, but it needs to be. Carolina has to finish defensive possessions with a rebound. This is another, like if getting to the free throw line a bunch is Cal's greatest strength, right behind it for me is their offensive rebounding. Their offensive rebounding percentage is 27th nationally. So, top 30. And then when you got 360 plus teams being top 30 in any statistical category, you can basically qualify as elite, right? Like that's big time. So they're 27th nationally in offensive rebounding percentage. They are 54th nationally in how many rebounds a game, offensive rebounds a game they get, and that's 12.9. And this matters because it's kind of strength on weakness. This is another area Carolina has struggled with at times this year, most notably in the game against Florida, where they allowed 14 offensive rebounds. And in the 2 most recent games, Carolina allowed 12 offensive rebounds to SMU, who, by the way, is also elite. Like they're right up there with Florida at the very tippy top of the sport, even better than is Cal. But then Saturday against an NC State team that is not a great offensive rebounding team by any metric, got a season high 16 offensive rebounds against the Tar Heels. That's not going to cut it. It might work against NC State. It might even work tonight against Cal. But against better competition, once Carolina finishes this a little bit easier stretch that they're in, when you got Pitt twice, Duke once, and Clemson, 3 of those 4 on the road, that's not going to cut it, man. You will get abused when you're doing that. So Carolina has to start doing that now to get it figured out. Got to finish defensive possessions with the rebound. They need to own this. Jalen Washington needs to step up and do these things. Like Van Allen, man, right? Remember, he had some trouble hanging onto the ball against NC State. It felt like they were really able to get hands in and rip a couple away from him. I want to see a strong Van Allen Lubin tonight, and he is. He's wildly capable of that. Ty Clott, if he gets in the game. He hadn't played the last couple, but if he does, same with James Brown. Want to see those guys active in rebounding. Jalen Withers as well. Number 3 in our Four Corners preview. How is Jalen Washington going to follow up his first career double-double? I'm always curious to see what a player does after he has a breakout performance or after she does. Whatever sport it is we're talking about, you have this breakout. What do you do to follow it up? So you got this double-double against NC State, which it's always great when people do career best things against the Wolfpack. But you did that. You've carried on this block party. Again, 12 in the last 3 games. What are you going to do against Cal? Is Jay Wash going to say, oh man, I've seen now more of what I'm capable of, and I'm going to lean into that, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to be a dude out here? He needs that for him, and Carolina needs that from him. That's what I want to see from Jalen Washington. And so, again, is he going to get another double-double? Is he going to get 4 or 5 more blocks? Well, statistically, historically, suggests no, he won't get another double-double. But even if he could get like 8 and 7 or 12 and 6, just anything in that range, man, would be wonderful. Jalen Washington just simply needs to be a factor. But watch critically what he does tonight. How engaged is he? How strong is he going? All of that. And then 4th and finally in our Four Corners preview is another player question. Can Seth Trimble start getting back going offensively? And look, to be fair, when you've missed as much time as he has those multiple games, you're going to be rusty and it's going to take time. So me asking this is not a critique of Seth Trimble. It's just simply like, how is he progressing? Where is his level as he continues to work his way back in? That's what I'm asking with that. This is now his 3rd game back. started against, I don't mean started like starting lineup, like started playing again against SMU, played a good deal of minutes. Same with NC State on Saturday, came off the bench and didn't score any points against SMU. Had 4 against NC State, a transition bucket, and actually both transition buckets. Hasn't hit any shots yet out away from the rim. That's coming though. That Seth has found that capability, and he's so much better and comfortable at it and with it now that's what we're watching for. But the good news is that the defense is there from the jump, from word one. So, I'm sure he would say he's rusty. He's gotten tired a little bit more easily. And so it's just getting those sea legs back under him. But thankfully, the defense and that hustle and experience don't go away. That's there, and that's critical. Again, think back to what we said earlier about like Chucky Hepburn from Louisville and about Marcus Burton from Notre Dame. I'm not saying Carolina definitively beats Louisville with Seth Trimble, but I am saying that Chucky Hepburn doesn't go 16 of 20 at the free throw line because he doesn't get there that many times. That's just the fact of the matter if Seth Trimble's guarding him. So, again, super helpful to have his defense back and going. But what I'm really curious to see with this is, assuming that Seth is going to return to the offensive form he's had the vast majority of this season, where he's been such a big jump from where he was. It's been in the time that he's been out that Ian Jackson has like exploded offensively. It started just before Seth was out, but it really, really, really has come on since. So there's this potential lining of, you got Ian doing everything he's doing. RJ feels like he's taken some offensive steps back in the right direction. And so as Seth gets worked back in offensively, as he starts to find that rhythm again, starts attacking, starts knocking down from outside, Carolina's offensive explosivity and capability could go to an even extra level. Now, they need other guys to continue to step up too. Need Jalen Washington to do that. Need Elliot Cadeau to be Mr. Steady Eddie, right? Like bringing all of that capability. But man, working Seth in now with the dynamo that is what Ian Jackson's doing, lots of great possibility. So there's the Four Corners preview for you. I'm curious, anything else you're watching for in this game? Because that's the goal here, right? We're all trying to educate and figure out how we can be better, more educated fans to give us certain things to watch for in a game. All right, well, we do still need to get ready for Cal, get to know them, their starters, a couple guys coming off the bench, what it is they do, and my score prediction for this game. All that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Rocket Mortgage and their great app, Rocket Money. For some people, I know Rocket Money has helped them find subscriptions that maybe they forgot about, or maybe a subscription that you're accidentally paying for twice, doubling up on it. I legitimately know people who that's happened to, and Rocket Money has helped them find it and get rid of it. That's what Rocket Money does. It helps you track this down. It's almost like having a personal digital assistant for your finances. Rocket Money it's a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can work at growing your savings. Brings everything together in one place, whether that's subscriptions, whether it's spending habits, or even the goals you're working to set up here in the early part of 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when you take advantage of all the premium features of the app. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. One more time, rocketmoney.com/locked-on. All right, let's get ready for this game. North Carolina hosting Cal tonight, Wednesday, January 15th, 7 p.m. Eastern in the Dean Dome. That'll be on the ACC network. For those of you watching at home, I think I saw it's Wes Durham and Corey Alexander together. So that's an interesting duo we'll see what happens, but I guarantee you there will be about 6 Armando Bacot references from Corey Alexander. FanDuel line, Carolina favored by 13.5 at KenPom. It's Carolina by 15. And so that'll we'll see what happens there. As we said in our Tuesday trivia earlier in the show, Carolina has all-time series record 4-1 against Cal. And this is the first time they've played since 1998. Cal's coach is Mark Madsen, ironically enough, who's a great Stanford player in his day. This is his second year at Cal after 4 years coaching at Utah Valley. Big miss by Stanford not to get Coach the Mad Dog in the house for that. As you would imagine, Cal is not ranked in the AP poll. They were picked 16th in the ACC preseason poll, so not much expected of them. And quite frankly, not much that they've been doing, if we're being honest. They right now, as of Tuesday's net refresh, they are ranked 126th in the net. That makes this a quad 3 game for Carolina. What does that mean? It means simply it really can't do anything to help you. It's just simply a game that you cannot lose. And not only that, Carolina needs to win comfortably and convincingly, or else they will drop in the net, even if they win, but it's like close. And by the way, I should say Carolina is up to 35th in the net now. They had dropped down to around 40 and just been slowly and steadily climbing back up. So again, you hate it, but because of the net and how it kind of judges teams, you got to blow out teams that you're expected to blow out. So watch for that tonight. At KenPom, Cal is 129th. They're 64th in offensive efficiency, but 249th in defensive efficiency. And that, friends, is where I'm looking for it. That not great defense against Carolina's up-tempo, run-and-fun offense. Seth Trimble, again, hopefully he's getting more and more worked back in. Should be a great opportunity for Carolina to score a bunch of points. And if this defense continues to do what we've been talking about today on the show, could be a recipe for a big-time Carolina win. Thus far this season, Cal is 8-8 overall, 1-4 in ACC play. Their best non-con wins, really the only one of note, was at USC, which is a nice win to go to USC and win. But their other 6 wins in non-conference play are all against teams that are ranked 250th or worse at KenPom. So there's that. Again, they're 1-4 in ACC. Their one ACC win is against Virginia. Poor Virginia, man. They are not good at basketball right now. It's tough. Non-con losses, they lost at Vandy, at Mizzou, and at home to Cornell. That's the only kind of embarrassing blemish. And then at home to San Diego State. Their ACC losses, again, 4 of them versus Stanford, at Pitt, at Clemson, and home to Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech is very bad this year as well. So, again, Carolina, based on resume stuff, should take care of business against Cal. As for their usual starters, they've used quite a few different lineups. There's been 5 different lineups, each of which has been used at least twice, 3 of the starting lineups has been used 4 times. So a lot of tinkering with everything. But they have started the same 5 in the last 4 games. So let me talk you through those guys, who they are, and then I'll let you know a couple guys off the bench. Number 1 is Javon Blackshear. 5'11" guard. This is his 6th year in college basketball. He played 5 at Grand Canyon and now is playing for Cal. Averaging 10.8 points a game. I believe that's 3rd on the team of active players. I'll explain that in a second. 37% from 3 on 5.6 attempts per game. So I'm going to have to get a hand up in his face, but thankfully that face is as tall as me at 5'11". 2.9 assists per game, but compared with 2.2 turnovers. So not a great assist to turnover ratio for Blackshear at all. Want to force him. Again, defense, let's make him make mistakes, right? And 1.1 steals a game. Next, you got DJ Campbell, who is a 6'2 guard. He's a transfer from Western Carolina, averaging 7.5 points, 1.7 boards, and 1.8 assists. Then you got one of my favorite names in all of college basketball, Air Force transfer, Rytis Petritis. Awesome, right? He's a 6'7 guard. At 7.3 points, 4.3 boards, 1.6 assists, and 1.2 steals. And then you've got Michigan State transfer Mady Sissoko. He's a 6'9 center, averaging 6.3 points per game and 6'9 rebounds per game. So pretty just right there. But then the guy you need to know and watch for, and somebody, and we're going to say this for this game and in the Stanford game, and it's kind of painful because I'm about to talk in the Cal team and the Stanford team have the ACC's top 2 leading scorers right now, both of which are dudes that we were heavily involved with in the transfer portal. That didn't come. And the one for Cal is Andrej Stojakovic. He's the leading scorer for Cal at 20.3 points a game, 2nd leading scorer in the ACC, 12th leading scorer in the entire nation, all of Division I, all 364 teams. He's a 6'7 guard, 35% from 3, 4.6 attempts per game. Strong. 84% from the free throw line. And remember, I talked about how often they get there. It's this dude in particular, 7 attempts from the free throw line a game, and he converts them at 84%. So that's the deal. Have to defend him well. Got to imagine it's probably going to be Drake Powell, because I'm guessing it'll be Jalen Washington on Mady Sissoko. Because of what Stojakovic can do, I think that you probably put Powell on him. Then you put probably Jackson on Petritus, which leaves then RJ Davis on DJ Campbell and Elliot Cadeau on Javon Blackshear. Or they might flip those two. We'll see. But that's what I would expect to happen. The critical one being Drake Powell on Andrej Stojakovic. The question is, who guards him when DP's out of the game, right? Is Seth up to that task? He's given up a couple of inches to him, but I believe that he could do it because he can play up like that. But because of other size considerations and athletic considerations, that might need to be like Jae'lyn or something like that. So we'll see what happens. A couple other guys in the rotation to know that, and first off, they do use their bench a good bit, 64th nationally at 36.9%. There are 10 players that get at least 13.4 minutes per game. Although, let's shrink that down to 9 because BJ Omat has been out since mid-November, and there's no real updates on his health status or return to play, so we don't expect to see him. Although that's come back to bite us this year already with Marcus Burton. But the two guys you need to know off the bench in particular are Jeremiah Wilkerson. He's a freshman, actually the second leading scorer, 12.5 points a game while playing just the 7th most minutes. So super efficient at scoring. Got to do work on Wilkinson. And then Josh Ola Joseph, 7.6 a game for him, and another critical guy to watch out for. All right, here we go. Prediction for this game. Look, Carolina has won 3 in a row. That is tied for their longest winning streak of the entire season. If you can believe me when I tell you that, yes, it is true. I promise. The other time they did it was American, Hawaii, and Dayton. That's the only other time they've won 3 in a row. So beating Cal would set up the longest winning streak this season for the Heels at 4 games. Now, of course, a lot of that is because all those very difficult games Carolina played were interspersed within the lower level teams that Carolina played, but still. Would be a big deal to get this win. Again, I know there are some areas where Cal's strengths line up with Carolina's potential weaknesses, but there's just too much talent, too much that Carolina does well. And with Seth Trimble back in the fold and all that going, hopefully, again, Jay Wash following up his career performance with another strong performance. I do have Carolina winning and winning comfortably. Give me 85-70. And yes, that would mean for a 4th straight game, Carolina would hold a high major opponent under 74 points. Because again, that's the magic number that I'm watching for. All right, what do you think? Carolina going to win this game, and how comfortable a margin? Let me know. Reach out. Let's chat about it. Discord, YouTube, comments, wherever it may be. Speaking of the Discord, if you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, the link for that's in the show notes. We'd love to have you. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, need to make sure you do so and hit that bell notification, because we will go live tonight after the game, and you're not going to want to miss out, because we'll either be celebrating or we'll be having a therapy session. And good grief, if it's a therapy session, it's going to be a hard one, because there's no reason the Tar Heels should lose this game. Also, you should subscribe, because we're really working to get to 10,000 subscribers in the first 3 years of the show. Things have been ticking up pretty quickly towards that, but we're still just under 400 away from reaching that 10K mark. We'd love you to help us and be the next subscriber. Just takes all you got to do is hit subscribe. Thank you so much for being part of that. Also, one other thing I want to offer you is joining the Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program. I mentioned that earlier in the show, but it's a great way to go in depth, even more so than being part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord group. It's direct conversation with me through texting. You get access to other perks and great things. It's a great way to help support the show. So thank you for considering being part of that. All right, guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tonight after the game. Make plans to join us. But until then, peace.